So, welcome back to Mem Tips and Tricks. Today we have Jörgen from Sweden. Welcome, Jörgen.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And it's great to have you in the studio. So, very much looking forward for this because one thing you don't know is that on the Danish user group, I've seen you there and presenting, and I really enjoy when you are on the stage because you can feel that when you talk about stuff in the mem world, you really know what's going on, and that is just huge inspiration.
I'm glad to hear it. It's perfect with the Danish user group. It's just across the bridge because I live just next to the bridge, basically the last exit in Sweden going to Denmark. So it's extremely close to me. So I always try to be there, even if I don't present. Absolutely. I'm
Yeah,
glad to hear it.
that's cool. So yeah, as I alluded to, you're from Sweden, and please give us some more background, Jürgen.
Yeah, well, I'm getting old. The beard is getting gray. But I've been doing this for a couple of years now, maybe, I don't know, 20, 25. And I live in Malmo, just next to Copenhagen. And I don't know, everything that's happening now must be the biggest shift since we started working with this, where we started working with a managed desktop when it was Kick script and Ghost we used, basically. And Windows 95. So it's happened something since that time, at least, that's for sure. So I mean, some of the things we do now, if you would have said that then, that would be like black magic or something. Or so it's extremely great to be part of the amazing journey that's taking place. That's for sure.
So I guess that what you're talking about is this cloud journey we are looking into, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had a customer meeting today, and the vision is to have it as easy to switch computers as switching phones, right? And
Wow.
that sounds easy, but I mean, going back again, how we've done it all times historically, that's a big change in so many areas. So many changes for security, network, everything. So I mean, it's great fun.
Yeah. So if you succeed in changing a Windows device as easy as you change a iPhone device, then I'm very impressed, I must say.
You need to have a vision, right? No, but I mean, that's really good. That's where we need to go, right? Especially when you're at home. And yeah, we always try to kid about that your network department is not your network department anymore. It's like it's your employee's neighbor's son or something who put up the Wi-Fi and made some crazy things that you will have to troubleshoot now. So I mean, it's a different world, definitely. And
Yeah.
I mean, having that deploying your own machine at home at your kitchen table, that's I mean, it's still really cool that you can do it. And the time of COVID, it's something that's needed as well.
Yeah, indeed. And it has been a vision from Microsoft for many years, and it hasn't succeeded before now in the COVID period. And
Yeah.
we must say that COVID has moved a lot.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's really pushed everything forward extremely.
Yeah.
But again, it was tough times for many IT departments as well, network departments, everyone, people going home, making totally different demands the other day than the day before. So I mean, it's been a tough journey as well for many.
And for some in this period of time, it's been very relaxing, not going to work, etc., being home, homeschooling kids, etc. But for a IT pro like you, it must have been one of the most busiest time in your career.
Yeah, the last couple of years has been extremely busy and a big change as well. And I mean, I think that's something I reflect on a lot as well, because many things that you talked about when you grabbed a cup of coffee, that's a meeting today. So many things are I mean, many things are more efficient as you're very much focused when you work at home, but many meetings by the coffee machine where you solve the problem in 2 minutes are now a meeting. And every meeting have people showing up late, talk about weather. So I mean, there's some, not everything is more efficient, right?
No.
So that's a lot of meetings, that's for sure.
Meetings, we have a lot of them, but Viva is here to save us.
Oh yeah. Yeah, everything will save us. We'll see. But I mean, Teams has also made a huge improvement as well during the COVID time. So it's been pushing everything forward. Absolutely.
Mm. Yeah, one thing I really don't miss is this long drive in the car, going every day to a new customer and spending a lot of time on the highway.
We are trying to get back at one of our customers Tuesday, Wednesday, and every Tuesday it hurts getting in the car. That's for sure. So I've started trying to start an hour earlier. So I missed the traffic in the morning and missed the traffic in the evening now.
Yeah.
Because you're not as tolerant as you were before either. So absolutely.
Time has become the most valuable you have.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also, I mean, many people, you're more careful what you do with your spare time. And it's a waste of time sitting in the car. And as you said, like a couple of years ago, that was the normal thing. So so it will change, and for some branches, you need to be in the office, but for many, this is the new way of working. So so many you talk to, I mean, talk to people at Microsoft in the US. No, I don't live in Seattle anymore. I moved to a different state, and I mean that's also cool. So it gives many people other opportunities. And
yeah, I work with a customer right now where one of the guys living in South Africa, and another lives in Italy for a month, and another consultant lives in Gran Canaria. And it's like, what is this? I mean, come on, it's freedom in a whole another level.
Yeah, it sure is. It's better life quality as well in many ways. So absolutely.
It is. Yeah. So that is very cool. So Jörgen, you're MVP. Everyone knows that. You go under the name CCM exec, right?
Exactly.
Isn't that the service of some products?
Exactly, some old on-premise legacy product, right? No, but yeah, it is. No, it's definitely. It was. I don't know. I think we were at campus when I got the bright idea or something. But yeah, so that's why I'm still using that, even if I guess less people know what it is today. So never touched it. So
I guess more and more will know what OMA DM client is.
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So maybe we should register that instead.
Yeah, but nevertheless, it's fine. I mean, all the people that has been working with SMS or SCCM or whatever you call it, the MEM, CM, config manager, it has so many names. It's crazy. They know what CCM exec is. They know you, Jörgen.
Yeah.
And tell us, please, how many years have you been MVP now?
That's a good question. I think it's 11 or 12. 12, I think.
That's totally crazy.
Yeah, that's really crazy. I still remember, I think it was the second MVP summit. My son was born, I think it was the second MVP summit. My son was born like, I don't know, 2 days before or something, or 2 weeks. So I like flew in on Sunday evening late and back again on Wednesday just to not miss out anyway. So I was there like 2.5 days. So bye, going back again. So I think, and he's 9 now. So that's. But then again, then we had the MVP. Some of those years we had MVP summits twice as well, because they were moving from spring to autumn and back. So a couple of years there we had one in spring and one in autumn as well. So that's a difference now as well. because we haven't had one yet in 3 years.
That's why they're
so,
skipping
yeah.
it now.
Exactly.
I'm like feeling very left out here. I've never been at an MVP summit. Well, I've been attending a virtual summit, but you don't like taking off hours because it's evening anyway, and it's like you have to go to the day job afterwards, and it's not the party that I really would like to go to. I want to go meet you all in person and stuff. I don't know anyone in person. I know the persons behind the Twitter account and the LinkedIn profiles, etc. I want to be there and talk to you.
Yeah, I must say personally, if you reflect back on all those years, I mean, meeting everyone, making friends across the globe, making friends at Microsoft, that's one of the, I mean, that's invaluable benefit of being an MVP, I would say. And I agree, when we're not meeting in person, that's not happening in the same way.
No.
So I also really hope that we get back the physical MVP summit. Hopefully next year then.
Yeah, let's vote for that on the deal.
Yeah, exactly. See what we can do.
Exactly. So Jörgen, we haven't heard about the company you work for. Tell us a little bit.
I work for a company called OneWin, and we have, during the pandemic, I think we went from like 25 to 55 employees or something like that. So that's also different now than it was before. So we are, but now we actually had a company event this weekend with our wives, and partners. So I actually have met almost everyone now in person. So that's also a big change. I mean, during the pandemic, having a job interview over Teams, working with people you never met, as you said before, it's definitely different than before. So, but it's good times. Good times. I have my many colleagues. We share a lot of ideas and a lot of crazy discussions we have all the time. So I really enjoy it.
That's what colleagues are for, right?
Yeah, and we have two of them are really good at writing code as well. So we can, if you just put the right, have the right discussion, something comes out of it as well. So it's really fun. As we talked earlier about Johan Skravelius at our work as well. So
is that one of the skilled coders?
Yeah, he is definitely one of those. But he works. Yeah, when he get his hands on something, he never stops until he's done. So
that's the real coder.
Yeah, absolutely.
He goes into a flashlight. It's like this is what is in front of him. I need to finish this. It's very important.
Yeah.
And I like that. And let's talk about one of the tools that he have been helping out making, or maybe is him making it. I don't know. You can tell me. But the one that many are using for their task sequence and for getting some very modern UI for the task sequence.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm planning to show that now as well when we do the other thing as well. Absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah, we call that one TS background, and the background for that is actually that we did a RAS or RAP with Microsoft at the customer, and many customer had F8 enabled to be able to troubleshoot, and that was a huge security risk. Brought to management, and then we said, okay, we need to fix that, and then that just grew to remote control to everything in there. So, but that's all Johan writing code. So it's just like, couldn't we do this as well? And then he doesn't say anything, and then 2 days later, can you test this? So that's how it normally goes. So absolutely,
that's quality. Wow, yeah, that's cool. I already like him. I haven't met Johan, but I like him.
Yeah, we all do. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I had a talk with another guy from Sweden called Niall Brady.
Oh, yeah.
He goes under the name Windows Noob.
Yeah,
And he's no noob, but he's really good at Windows and
absolutely.
the same product mem and so on. And he really does extensive logs as well. Right now, writing a blog series on Windows 365. And him and Paul Winstanley, they usually do stuff together. It's like they are bundled.
Yep.
So I invited them for an interview as well, and they were showing us the whole process of tenant attach and co-management, and what are the differences of this type of devices, and where do you use tenant attach and where do you use co-management, etc. But we haven't touched upon which workload to change first and how to optimize that process, because when we connect our on-prem systems with the cloud, there's a lot of steps that needs to be carried out. For being co-managed, there's a lot of steps that goes before that, right? And
Yep.
how do we solve all that in a optimized way so we get the fastest possible task sequence from zero brick device to actually a working device?
Yeah, that's a true challenge. I actually created a feedback item as well for it, which we can look at as well, because that would be the best way to actually have it. I mean, if we could have a step in the task sequence that basically says enroll the device in Intune, move this workload, move this workload, move this workload, then we're done. And basically that's what's missing right now, because that would solve all the problems with the, because that's what we see as well. We move endpoint, which is popular to move with the new, I mean, there's a lot of things that's better managed in Intune when it comes to endpoint. You lose some features, but I mean, the policies, the firewall rules, everything is quite nice, the new UI they made. So moving that is one thing, but then you get security on your hands, right? Because the machine doesn't get the policy when the OS deployment finishes and the user can log on. So then that's the discussion instead. And that would be solved with a task sequence step saying enroll in Intune, move these workloads.
Yeah.
And then we could skip that time. Absolutely.
So when we come to, let's say, when Windows actually configure itself and we get this config manager agent on the device, then it actually should trigger the AD connect to get that device object onto to a hybrid state, because then it would be possible later in the task sequence actually to do that, because that's one of the big difficulties here, right? It's the hybrid state.
Yeah, the hybrid state is actually quite fun, because if you have everything set up, and you could, of course, in a large environment take longer time, but then normally the task sequence take longer time as well, because it's normally bigger as well. Then the hybrid join will actually take place during the task sequence. So that will normally, if you test it in a lab and you make like a really quick task sequence, then it won't. But as soon as you start like installing Windows updates, which take a while, then the device will have time to do the hybrid join during the task sequence. So you can even see that because some of the devices, you can probably see that in all environments, they actually upload the recovery key as well in Azure AD, because when the BitLocker enablement, even if you do it on-prem, it will actually upload a key as well, because it's already hybrid join. So that's so that's the easiest part, I think. The problem is that we don't know when it's done.
Yeah.
So that's again a problem. And I mean, if we talk, we've done a lot of tests in many customers, and I mean, what we see as well is, I mean, internet access. Many have a proxy server with authentication, for example. That will block the whole process as well. Yeah. Dynamic Azure AD groups, dynamic collections. Yeah, to be in the Windows Update workload moved, you need to be in this collection, and that collection is updating, and that takes an hour, and so on, so on. So I mean, when I started testing it in my lab and at customers, it took like hours, but it wasn't anything to do with those things. It was network, it was how you target everything. So now I moved the workloads in my test tenant, which we're going to look at later, to have target all devices with Windows Update for Business Move, and also endpoint. And then I've done the same in Intune as well. I target all devices with the Defender for Endpoint onboarding, for example. And that's also some black magic Microsoft has done, because if you wait in the Endpoint Manager portal and you wait and you just look at the newly enrolled device, Defender for Endpoint onboarding will basically be applied immediately, and all the other policies comes down a couple of minutes later. So that's must be a design decision made.
Yeah.
So that's actually the fastest one. So when I wrote a little script that monitors everything and waits for everything. And when I wrote that and added Windows Update for Business policies, I had to put that in last, because it takes like 5 minutes longer than the Defender for onboarding to come down. And I've done hundreds of deployments, and it's the same every time.
That's very interesting and very good to hear, actually, because we should have priority on the security part. So that's really good. Really, really good.
So absolutely. And then when you move the Windows Update workload, you need to install updates during the test sequence from Internet using PowerShell or whatever instead, if you have that requirement. So, I mean, there's still some things to do if you're in hybrid to get it to work in a really, really good way. So,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there is. And, but that's where the customer is right now. They have config manager, and then they want to cloud enable, and they just go ahead, click, 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 and then, everything is co-managed, and let's move some workloads. But they maybe don't actually always know what they're doing, and then they get stuck, and then config manager is updated, and something is deprecated, and you're forced to go to the cloud, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what happens going forward, but I mean, that's the feeling, right? Every new feature comes in Intune. So I mean, the feeling is that you need to be there. Absolutely. That's what we see at customers as well. Some maybe don't like it, but they realize that they need to move as well. But it's the future, and I mean, it's so many things are so much easier. And I mean, when you get the hang of it, I mean, it's new skills, learning to troubleshoot, and new tools for service desk. There's things that needs to be other challenges as well, which are not, I mean, which are not in the Microsoft Docs, right? But there's other things that needs to take place to make it a good experience as well. Because if you skip the part of training your service desk and fix all those things, then they will get the poor service when they call service desk, and then it's still a bad experience. So I mean, everything is tied together. So you should always remember all the soft part with asset management, procurement, training of service desk, on site staff, everyone. So
so if you think the whole company, and you need to do that when you change stuff, because otherwise you'll have people going around doing what they always did. We install a device, it's not working.
Yeah, exactly.
Why it's not working? Because I changed the process. Oh, yeah.
It was like when we had a lot of WMI problems many years ago now, and it was basically, so you can't print. Well, we'll start with repairing WMI, right?
Yeah,
that was like the universal fix for everything all of a sudden. So I mean, that's I mean, it's tough. Training and getting the word out and training everyone that works with it is tough. It's a big task as well. So.
Yeah. So I guess that it doesn't just take 1 or 2 days to migrate to the cloud. You really need to think, what do I get out of it for a customer perspective? Is there any benefits? Yes, there are. Are you using Office 365 already? Well, maybe it would be a good idea to have compliance signals to utilize conditional access and all that beautiful stuff. Moving away from ADFS services maybe to password hash and all that modern, which is not mem related, but it is anyway, because if it is not working, well, the management and the total user experience from a Intune and autopilot perspective, that's going to suck.
Yeah, and the same is OneDrive migration, moving away from file shares. I mean, that goes hand in hand as well, because I mean, we have our new brand new Azure AD joint client. Now we need to map all our drives to reach the data, right?
That's a classic.
Exactly, and that's also, I mean, so yeah, you're right, and there's a lot of things connected to making the best end user experience.
Exactly.
And that was the same thing. We had that a couple of years ago when we talked about it. A few organizations had moved to OneDrive and SharePoint Online. Now I mean, many have moved now. So it's easier today, and those things are often in place already. But it brings a lot of other things with it, absolutely. And we shouldn't. And then we haven't started talking about modernization of apps as well, right? So
exactly, which is a huge area.
But it's so. I mean, that's also an area which is basically. I don't want to say untouchable, but it's like climbing a mountain for many customers. I mean, if you have thousands, I mean, it's unrealistic that you can change those in 3 years, for example. That will take 2 decades or something. I mean, you build up your application heritage over, I don't know, 20 years maybe. So that will take 20 years to get rid of it as well for many.
That's the reason why the new workload in Intune and that you can actually install the built-in config manager agent into your autopilot flow.
Yeah,
because then you can leverage all these apps that you have in your config manager environment. You spent so many years building all these flows and stuff, and now you can just get it. So you can get to Azure AD joint device. You can use autopilot to onboard your device, and you can have this client installed and utilize your apps. That's brilliant, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, that's also if as you said before, customer value. I mean, okay, so what's the customer end user value? Before we could install the application, and after the move to Intune, we can install the application. I mean, the end user doesn't see there's no benefit in there. I mean, it's just moving for moving sake, right? So yeah, I think that's the workload that we try to leave behind as much as we can, because it's extremely expensive, and it brings with the new feature and with CMG and everything. I mean, from an end user perspective, it gives, I shouldn't say nothing, but because you can include the other apps in ESP and so on, but still, yeah, it brings very, very little value, at least, to migrate them for a huge cost.
It is a huge cost, but if you want operational excellence, then you might bring down some of the complexity that you bring with co-management and hybrid and all these technologies. Because it brings a more advanced environment, and it will depend on people doing debugging from time to time.
Yeah,
that's how it is.
Yeah.
So modern should be simple. That's a principle, but we bring in the most advanced stuff in here, and then it doesn't work, and we are like disappointed, and it's like, well, it was never meant to be. No. Right? Yeah. So Jörgen, we are eagerly waiting for actually looking into some demo environment.
Yes, we will see how we can do this.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can do it like this. And then okay, I need to press once more, right? So So I cheated a bit and started it already.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my demo, one of my demos, my demo environment or my lab environment. Actually, 2 of my 3 Intel NUCs, they decided that this summer was too hot, so they gave up.
Oops.
Yeah, if I power them on, they are actually powered on exactly for 1 minute and 30 seconds, then they shut down again. So, and they last week when I tried to grab a file of it, it actually put the whole house out of electricity. So I'm not going to start them anymore. So,
ouch! It
but
sounds
that's how it is.
expensive.
They were old anyway, apparently.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
Yeah.
So what my plan is now, we can have a look at TS background as well, as you mentioned before, because we'll go through it as well. But I can start this so we don't have to wait. So what I try to do is write the script, which we'll look at later as well, that actually monitors the when things happen. And I did that to start with just for my own personal interest to see what can we speed up. And then we found, and then I found another thing as well, which I didn't mention before. When I used a non-up-to-date image, I had like 8 out of 10 Windows 11 machines. They were stuck with couldn't verify the enrollment URL, and they didn't enroll until an end user logged on. And then when I switched media for, I don't know why I decided to test that, then I have never seen that again. So using an updated media is also a very good tip as well.
That's just a really, really good tip. Yeah. I
So
thought that URL was coming from the database of Config Manager.
Yeah, but it says I can't reach it. You know, that's the same message that we have for many other things. But the same second as you log on, there's a logon trigger as well for co-management. Then it co-managed immediately. But that's not what I wanted when I wanted to solve, for example, a pre-stage scenario. So I have some task sequence in my environment.
Jörgen, I see a lot of non-supported.
I know. I actually decided to keep them. I was thinking about removing them, but then I decided to keep them because even now and then you get the question, oh, does it work to do a feature upgrade from 1803 or something? And then I can actually test it out pretty fast. So.
Oh, that's a good move.
Yeah. So I did a simple here just to have a variable called pre-stage center. So normally I set that in the task sequence based on a PowerShell script that gathers some of the variables that MDT did. So I actually set the default gateway address, and then I check if that default gateway is in our pre-stage center, then it sets the value to true. So I don't have to do that. The reason why I put it here is I only have one network right now in my lab, so I needed to test both scenarios. So then I did it like this.
Yeah, it's not like Niall. He have a lot of network configurations, and that's actually bugging him from time to time.
Well, I have as well. I think I have 3 NICs in my machine as well, but I have a separate environment for technical preview, a separate environment for a customer testing environment, and a separate for my own lab and so on. But I try to isolate them that way as well.
Yeah.
So that's the plan. So this machine is already pre-staged and it exists in AD, so it should fairly fast do hybrid join at least. And then it will. So that's basically the problem, that we can't do hybrid join, or we can't do MDM enrollment during the task sequence. So that was my thought to start with, to see if we could script something. But then when we removed all the other things, it's actually so fast. So there's no gain of trying to do anything funny, I would say.
I must ask you one thing here. I can see that you can get management point and which distribution point you get your binaries from.
Yep.
Is that by design, or is that something built into this tool?
This management point is distribution point is actually a good question, because we always had that discussion, me and Johan, who wrote the tool, and as you see here, we have more than one distribution point. And that's why we haven't showed it built in before, but I'm sure Johan will do it now. So basically, I wrote that just a small blog post on how you add that if you like as well. But the problem is that variable. So what I did is I take the configuration manager client package, for example, and then I look which in the task sequence variables, which DPs have I got for this package. And in my case, I have 2. So you could end up with 2, 3. That's something that you should be aware of. But yes, it will show it one of them, which is pull the content from. Absolutely.
That's very cool.
It's good for troubleshooting boundaries as well. When I wrote that blog post, I had a lot of comments. Well, when I started using that, I see that I'm not using the distribution point I thought I was using. So maybe it was a good idea anyway. Right? And then we added this one as well. So this one is basically static, and this one will update. So it, because as the distribution point changes, could change during the task sequence, it actually shows the last content downloaded all the time. So it will change. So if it switches distribution point, that will switch as well. Again, just for troubleshooting. It could be that it's a little bit too much data, and I decided not to fix the last part because it's not interested in anyway. So
yeah.
But I mean, this is I use this all the time, and I love the F8 feature where I can, in this case, require a password and username to be able to remote control it. That's really cool. Otherwise, instead of just pressing F8. So that's an option you have as well. That's also one of those feature requests that Johan got through the blog post we wrote on my blog. And then when we started discussing it, it's like, okay, so we want to password protect F8 so we can troubleshoot, but how can we authenticate if we're troubleshooting a network connection problem, for example? It's like catch-22, right? So
yeah,
but still, so I love this as well, and you can remote control it as well. And that's, I think when he built the remote control thing, I think that's one of the biggest benefits as well, especially when we have pre-stage centers where we maybe need to help them a little bit more. So, yeah. But otherwise, I love this as well. Open CM trace, open my log file to see what's actually happening. So it's very, very time saving. So.
Yeah, and CM trace, I must just applaud it a little bit, because it's really made the life of a configuration manager admin easy, because we are looking at all these logs all the time.
Yeah.
But now we go into the Intune, and we have the Intune management extension log now, and a couple of others in the same library. But we have no log viewer. It's like we are. What is happening here?
Yeah,
it should be in there.
Yeah, I distribute CM trace to all modern managed machines as well. It doesn't hurt that it's there, and I use it for reading other log files as well. I mean, you're used to it as well.
Yeah.
We
could use OneTrace as well, but it doesn't.
Yeah, but
work.
OneTrace is. I mean, I think OneTrace will be used more when we actually get OneTrace in the client as well.
Yeah,
because it's a bit more effort to start it now, and then it won't happen. So I think for OneTrace to take over, it needs to be in the client as well.
Yeah, it needs to be simplified.
Yeah,
just like that. Otherwise,
absolutely,
you won't have people using it.
No, absolutely. So while this is going on, we can have a look at the task sequence instead, I would say.
Yeah.
So what I only have one step basically in the end, which actually copies a script that creates a scheduled task on the machine, so we can monitor what happens after OS deployment. And that script also writes to a log file at the same time that OSD completed at this time, so we know when the task sequence finished. Cool. I tried to launch this with post action script, but it this is more reliable.
Okay.
So it works. That works pretty well. And then that will kick off when it starts, and we can have a look at what it does as well, because I should have it somewhere here, quite near to get my hands on as well. So what it will do, it will copy a PowerShell script, which looks like a long row of things, right? But basically, it will check in the Hive to see if the device is hybrid joined, because the Azure AD information is there. And then we'll wait for the device client ID to come down, because then we know that it's MDM enrolled. And then I have my step waiting for the Defender for Endpoint to switch state to onboarding to 1. And then I now added last week or something to look at one of the policies coming down from Windows Update for Business. So we actually can write that as well. And then we simply look at the variable we launch it with. So if we launch it with the variable pre-stage, it will shut down when it's done. And if it's not pre-staged, then it will just go on. I have another version that will post the end result to Teams, and yeah, you can do whatever you like after this. I mean, there's a lot of, I guess that there will be a lot of creative ideas around that out there anyway. So absolutely.
Yeah, there
but
will.
that's the process I track with it basically.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And it's I must say, when I did all the other things, it's actually extremely fast. So the script I haven't published this version yet. I will, but basically it just looks in my exported XML file for the scheduled task, and it replaces the placeholder variable with pre-stage or a blank. That's as easy as it is. So then we know it's if pre-stage or if it should stay alive.
That's cool. Cool way of doing it. And this really highlights what the cloud service is all about. It's a lot of services that we enroll to. It's not just like we enroll to Intune and then we're done.
No, exactly.
That's not it. That's not the case.
No.
We're enrolling to Intune. Yes. We're enrolling to Windows Update for Business Deployment Services. Yes. We're enrolling to MDE. Yes.
Yep.
And so forth.
Yeah, it's a lot of other things that needs to happen. Absolutely.
And that's what people needs to understand. It's many services.
Yeah.
And Intune and the people behind Intune, they have that product. They are not in charge of all the other moving parts here. And that's the thing, because when something is troubling, it's not enrolling like it should, or maybe there is another service that's not reacting like it should, then it's the MEM's fault, right?
Yeah.
But maybe it's not. So,
no, exactly. And the same for autopilot as well. I mean, that's built into the OS in most parts, right? And I mean, ESP is just an app which controls from Intune. So yeah, you're totally correct. It's a lot of moving parts that needs to tie up to get it to work. Absolutely.
And it is the same in the task sequence, but that is just really reliable once you have set up a very good task sequence like you have here.
Yeah. This task sequence is more the dirtiest one I could find, but yeah, because I always copy it and add stuff and remove stuff and keep stuff that I could use in the future and stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely. So it's and I think it's the moving parts that will be the challenge when troubleshooting as well. As we said, I mean, autopilot, that's a different cloud service. If there's a problem with that, then Intune doesn't work, for example. And we had that like a couple of months ago where there was a problem enrolling in autopilot. So I mean, but again, if we go back and what we discussed before, I mean, for the end user and for the admin, it's like it's this experience, right? And the experience is broken. And it's not always as easy to see which part it is, if it's Intune or if it's another service. That's the problem. The same with the Microsoft 365 apps. That fails sometimes when you install it using the built-in wizard in Intune, right? Because it uses the Office CDN. And if there's a problem with Office CDN, then autopilot stops, but it's not autopilot's fault, right? It's the content coming from somewhere else. So as you say, it's a lot of other things that needs to be working, and that's used during the installation as well. So and internet access as well. I mean, we had a customer doing autopilot, and they used the popular Pi-hole product, which actually blocks ad by blocking the DNS to the ads, right? And I don't know, was it a year ago? Someone put one of the Microsoft CDN addresses in there. And I mean, and the end user was sitting at home. I can't do autopilot. And we got all the craziest error messages. And then we're back again to it's not the network guys anymore. It's someone else managing your network that you need to troubleshoot, right? That took a while to solve as well. And yeah, out of the blue, by the way, could it be that we're using this, right? So I guess if we allow the end user to reinstall the machines at home, we will see more and more support for the home networks as well, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's the case. And we are going to look at that because that is the future. And if you want to be able to bring these devices to the user and not come to the office and do the PXE and do the SAS sequence and all that, it's always been an issue. And that AD join, that's kind of the key thing that has been a problem for many, many, many years doing this from home. So that Azure AD coming and rescuing exactly that topic, but still, now it's a cloud service. There's many other attack surfaces, and we need to make sure nothing gets in the way there and, well, steal our data.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of other aspects as well, of course. But I mean, again, it's the end user experience. That's why we're working with this. I mean, that's the measurement of how good your platform is. It's like how secure it is, but still a great experience, because it's the experience that we're after, right?
Yes.
So I mean, and that's what we always talked about before as well, when people were locking themselves in IT departments. Now we're going to build a new standard client, and then nobody could use it. But it was the best client in the world, but apparently not, because, I mean, it shouldn't be called a workplace. It should be more called like an app support or something, because, I mean, that's what it really is in the end. I mean, nobody uses but then again, okay, workplace is a good thing, but I mean, nobody uses the client itself to do any productive work for the companies. It's all about the apps that runs on top of it, right?
It is.
So I mean, the apps are the important thing, not how the background looks, perhaps, or whatever. The important thing is that the apps work. Otherwise, we can build the best client in a conference room somewhere, but if we block all the apps, then it can't be used anyway. So I mean, it's still an application platform where we're supplying the end users, or supplying the users. Yeah.
And it's actually funny talking about branding and stuff. We see that in the task sequence right now. There was just a Windows 11 branding, and now
absolutely.
It's removing apps. And please, Jörgen, tell me, what are you removing from that Windows 11?
For Windows 11 now, I remove my personal favorite themes, the personal edition, of course, which is quite easy to get rid of this way, because it's just another line in the unattended XML file. But when you do autopilot, it's quite challenging, and it auto starts as well, and it's that's the one from an end user perspective, which I think causes the most issue.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I try to remove some of the other things that isn't used, like Power Automate and stuff like that as well. Still to get, I mean, we're still talking security. Power Automate could, I think there was a session at the DEF CON or something where they actually abused Power Automate built in to execute code on the machine. So I mean, there's still everything you have there is an attack surface, even if you don't like Power Automate. Everyone will try to abuse everything you have somehow. So yeah, I still try to get rid of some of them, absolutely. Some of them could probably most likely be left, but like personal teams, unfortunately, causes a lot of confusion. And there are some other ones in there as well. So
and we also have something called endpoint analytics when we have tenant attached our devices, or we have a Intune enrolled devices in co-management or Intune standalone.
Yeah.
And if we utilize that, it's actually monitors on the startup processes. And if we leverage a app that is for personal space and it's like a Teams client, well, it actually just help us ruin our own score in our company.
Yeah.
It's quite funny.
Yeah,
but
it is.
It really isn't, right? Because now we have to deal with removing it and do branding anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I totally, and I think that's important as well, because and I mean, endpoint analytics brings some extremely valuable information as well, because even if we're on-prem, or especially if we're on-prem, I mean, logon times and startup times are always a discussion or a topic of discussion, right? And I mean, for all of those, we have, I mean, it's subjective what you think takes long time, but if you look at it, you can actually find that, okay, at some network locations, for example, there could be a problem with something else, performance in the network that takes longer to log on. But that brings us to the most hard thing we have in IT, and that's time. I mean, we have all that great information in endpoint analytics, but many I talk to don't have the time to do something about it. Yes, it's fun to go in and look at it, but when it's actually come to take action on it, it's time that the IT departments don't have. That's my experience, which is really sad.
Yeah.
But I mean, the things it brings with different hardware models, it's amazing to see performance gains and everything. So that's one of Nyland and Paul must have mentioned that was one of the quickest wins you get as well, just by ticking tenant attach, right?
Yeah.
Basically ticking.
And tenant attach is just not dangerous at all, because it's just upload your devices into the Intune portal and it doesn't touch the device itself.
No. So
basically
it's pretty non-intrusive, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But again, the amount of information we get is amazing.
It is.
So we're not going to log on to this machine because that would be cheating. So what hopefully is in place already. Yeah, I've done this before, as you can see, is that the firewall rules are there, so I can actually access the machine, and then we should be able to have a look at, and we use CM Trace, of course. So then it's just sitting back and relax. And here we can see that so I actually tried to write that deployment is in pre-stage center, so it will shut down when it's enrolled. And then we can see that it's actually, as I said before, hybrid join. If we have internet access without anything else in the way or making it more complex, then it will actually do the hybrid join during the task sequence. So that's already done.
That's cool.
And last time I tested it this morning for some peculiar reason, and it took only a couple of minutes, then it was enrolled in Intune as well. So it's pretty fast.
That's really nice to know.
Let's see if I can get the window up. See if we see it in the other end as well.
And the thing is, if you logged on to this newly built device and you had to hand it over to another user, the thing is, if it already enrolled to Intune, what happens with the device? You become the primary user, right?
Yeah, exactly. As it's a hybrid device, the first user that logs on is the primary user.
Yeah.
So we don't want to do that from that perspective as well in a pre-stage center. Then we will have someone having a lot of devices.
Don't do that.
No.
Trust the process.
Exactly. So that's why I try to keep it this way instead. So we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So let's hope everything works, and it should hopefully come down soon. Now it will of course take time just because we're talking about it and waiting for it, right?
That's how a live demo is. And yeah, of course. And I'm sure it will happen very soon. But yeah, I experienced a couple of customers where this was the way of working. They logged onto the device to secure everything was there, maybe adding 1 or 2 apps more that wasn't optimized, etc. And the thing was, they had pretty many devices on their IT staff. And well, when you leverage some applications or compliance signals from Intune and you want them to use the famous company portal, well, guess what? You need to be the primary user on that device, otherwise you won't see it. So I had to build a Azure automation where I actually look at in Azure AD who was the last logged on user and then change it in Intune using Graph. Don't do it. It's just a big headache.
Yeah, it is. But now it actually enrolled, right? So 2 minutes. And if we look at the other end, it actually is broken. So yeah, it's but I mean the old device will be removed for a couple of minutes, so it will take some time for it to get back. Absolutely. So yeah. So we'll see when it gets up there. So, and that's why it's hard to track from the other end if it's done or not, right? Because now the device is done, but we can't see that it's finished on the other end.
I've seen this take a lot of time before the device actually gets known in the portal.
Yeah, and now it's onboarded to Defender for Endpoint.
Wow.
So now and I mean this, and when we have these times, it's hard to do something else to speed it up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's only a couple of minutes. So that means that the since the service has started and the flag on the registers has set that the onboarding state is 1. So it will show up in Defender and the security portal already now, but it won't have any information about it because that takes time to collect.
Of course. Of course.
So absolutely. So it will, but then we will see now that the Windows Update for Business policies takes a little longer to come down as well.
So behind
my other end is not waking up, so we're not going to look at the Intune portal. It's still not there. So
no, I believe if you were querying the graph, we would see it, but it takes sometimes it takes time for Intune to actually project what we see here. So it's actually a very good demo of how things are in reality. I like that. Yeah,
and the same thing for the Windows Update policies. If you're gonna wait for them to show up in the Intune portal, that will take much longer than when it was actually applied. So I mean, there's no use in trying to look at it in that way.
So are you only utilizing the update rings, or are you also using this feature update to safeguard hold your devices on a certain level, or?
I'm using both, so absolutely. Yeah. So it will stay there. This one will stay on Windows 10 for now, Windows 11 for now, of course. But yeah, we're using both of them. The feature upgrade thing is really good.
I mean, it's the best way to get the proper information in the Intune portal, at least.
Yeah. And also be predictable, right? That's what our customers that moved really early to Intune. It was like, okay, so when will our devices upgrade? We've set it to 120 days. From which day when did that counter start, right?
You don't know. It's a big black box.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, the feature update brings predictability as well. So we actually know what happens.
Yeah.
And that one is still there, and it should take like 1 or 2 minutes more, and then the Windows Update for Business policies will come down as well.
Very cool.
So it takes longer for those policies to come down. I mean, enrolling Intune, enrolling MDM, and it took 1.5 minutes for it to onboard to Defender. That's pretty fast, I would say.
That is fast.
And now it's applied the Windows Update for Business policies. And as I said, that this one will be in the pre-stage center. It's now shut down and ready to send to the end user.
Just like that.
Yeah, could be some more user interaction and stuff like that, but I'm working on it. It took a while to get here, so I will get to work on that as well. And again, if you want to try to monitor this using the endpoint, the Intune portal, I'm not sure. I don't think it still even has grasped that machine is reinstalled. So
no,
it's hard to see it that way, right?
Yeah, you'll have to wait.
Yeah, but it's ready to ship now. So and I think that's also a value to know that it's actually okay, but we can't see it yet. So absolutely.
I've seen solutions back in the time where you actually change the background of the lock screen.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do that, and I'm thinking about setting. Yeah, exactly, and setting the maybe set the who's allowed to log on as well interactively, so you actually can't log on if you try, so we don't break the primary user affinity as well. So
good thing. Yeah,
but it's getting there. I haven't had time this week. It's been a busy week. So
yeah,
but this is a good start, I think. And I mean, the timing here, as I said, when I started and I had dynamic queries in dynamic collections, dynamic Azure AD groups, this could take like 1.5 hours or something for everything to take place. So that's one of the important things as well, is how you target everything.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
And how to target, that's a whole nother game. That is another video. That's
definitely another video. Absolutely.
Yeah, we can't cover everything here, but this was definitely a very cool demo, and this looks very promising. And I really I'm happy for your customers that where you use these kind of tools, because they are not it's not the black box for them. They know what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, as I said, it started with me knowing wanted to know when things happened, and as I said, you as you said as well, you break it if you log on, basically.
Yeah.
So it's but it's getting there. It needs some more help, but yeah, absolutely.
But help you're giving it, and very nice help, I would say. So I really hope that this was some great info for the viewers, and I definitely will encourage you to go to Jörgen's blog post, and I will put them in the description of this video. And thank you, Jörgen, for taking us through co-management and all the services to enroll to, and showing us how this nice tool Johan built for us in the task sequence. It was really nice.
Bonus. Thank you for a great time. Absolutely. And a great series as well. Very useful information.
I really hope so. So yeah, we will have more in this topic, because it's very interesting, and people need to know what their possibilities are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jörgen, thank you. Tusen tack.
Thank you. Tusen tack.
Yeah. See you.
See you. Bye.